You wake up at 2:37 in the morning to absolute silence. Not quiet, silence. The kind your brain has never processed before. No refrigerator hum, no AC cycling, no distant traffic, white noise bleeding through the walls. Your nervous system, calibrated by 40 years of electrical background radiation, starts sending panic signals before you even understand why. Your heart rate climbs, your breathing shallows, because somewhere in your brainstem, in the ancient wiring that kept your ancestors alive on the savannah, something knows. The world just changed, and you are not prepared for what that silence means. The grid is gone, not flickering, not brownout, gone, permanent blackout. And here is what nobody tells you about that moment. The psychological unraveling starts immediately. Not in days, not in hours, immediately. Because human beings are not wired for true silence. We evolved in environments filled with biological noise, wind through leaves, insect hum, animal calls, rivers, fire crackle. For 200,000 years, silence meant danger. It meant predator nearby. It meant everyone else is hiding, so you better hide too. And then we built civilization. We replaced biological noise with mechanical noise. Refrigerators, fans, power lines carrying 60 Hz hum that vibrates through every wall in every building in every city on the continent. You have never experienced a single day without it. Your children have never experienced a single moment without it. And now it is gone. That hum was not just sound. It was a constant neurological signal that meant safety, civilization, order, structure. The grid is working. The systems are functioning. Help exists. When that hum dies, your amygdala, the fear center of your brain, starts screaming before your conscious mind even catches up. Let me run the numbers on what happens in the first 6 hours. Hour 1. You are confused. You check your phone. Battery might still have charge, but no signal. You flip light switches. Nothing. You walk outside. The entire neighborhood is dark. Not just your house. Not just your block. Everything. No street lights. No porch lights. No glow from distant strip malls or office buildings on the horizon. If you live in or near a city, you have never seen this. True darkness. The kind where you cannot see your hand in front of your face. The kind where the Milky Way becomes visible for the first time in your life, and instead of feeling wonder, you feel existential terror, because your brain is wired to associate darkness with vulnerability. Hour 2. The denial breaks. You start calculating. When will it come back on? You remember that time, the power went out for 3 hours during that storm. Or that time in college when the transformer blew and you were out for 8 hours. You tell yourself this is like that, temporary, fixable. A crew is working on it. By morning, everything will be back to normal. You might even convince yourself to go back to sleep. Hour 3. You are awake. So is everyone else in your house. The children are asking questions you cannot answer. Your spouse is checking the phone for the 14th time, as if the laws of physics might have changed in the last 6 minutes. You find candles, maybe a flashlight. If you are ahead of the curve, you have a battery lantern. You set it on the kitchen table. The small circle of light makes the darkness beyond it feel heavier, more oppressive. You sit there, in that little island of illumination, and the silence presses in from all sides. Hour 4. The psychological shift happens. You start thinking about water, about food, about the fact that your gas tank is at a quarter, about the fact that you have no cash, about the fact that you do not actually know where anything is without GPS. You start making plans. When the sun comes up, you will drive to the store, get supplies, fill the tank, except everyone else is having the same thought, simultaneously, across every neighborhood, every suburb, every city block. Hour 5. You hear the first siren, then another, then dozens. Emergency services are being overwhelmed. Accidents at every intersection because traffic lights are down. Medical calls from people whose CPAP machines stopped working, whose oxygen concentrators went offline, whose insulin pumps failed. And here's the thing nobody tells you. The 911 system is designed for normal load. It can handle maybe 5% surge capacity. In a grid-down scenario, call volume increases by 4,000% in the first 6 hours. The system collapses. Operators stop answering. Even if they do answer, Dispatch has no way to coordinate, no computers, no GPS tracking of units, no radial infrastructure running on battery backup that was supposed to last 48 hours but fails in 12 because it was never actually maintained. Hour 6. The children are crying, not because they are hurt, because they are terrified, because they have never experienced true darkness, because the silence is so complete that every small sound becomes amplified. A creak in the floorboards, a branch scraping the window, the dog whining in the corner. Your 5-year-old asks when the lights are coming back on. You lie and say soon. Because what else can you say? That you have no idea. That this might be permanent. That civilization, the only world they have ever known, just evaporated like morning fog. And we are only 6 hours in. Let me tell you what is happening at the macro level while you sit there in the dark, trying to comfort your family. The infrastructure is failing. Not slowly. Catastrophically. Because modern infrastructure is not designed for resilience, it is designed for efficiency, just-in-time delivery, centralized systems, single points of failure, and the grid was the ultimate single point of failure. Here is what nobody tells you about municipal water systems. They run on electricity. Not just the treatment plants, the pumps. Miles and miles of underground pumps that move water from treatment facilities through distribution networks to your house. Those pumps have battery backup. Maybe. If the facility is up to code. If the batteries were maintained. If someone remembered to test them. That backup lasts anywhere from 4 to 12 hours. After that, the pumps stop. Water pressure, which is normally maintained at 60 to 80 psi, starts dropping immediately. 72 hours. That is the number you need to remember. 72 to 96 hours after grid failure, municipal water pressure reaches zero. Your tap runs dry. But here is the part that is worse. The sewage system also runs on electricity. Lift stations that move waste from low areas to treatment plants stop working. Gravity can only do so much. Within 5 days, sewage starts backing up. Into basements, into ground floors, into streets. The smell alone is enough to make you vomit. But the real danger is contamination. Every septic system in every suburban neighborhood starts overflowing. That waste seeps into groundwater, into wells, into every natural water source within a 5-mile radius. Now, let me tell you about the chemistry. Municipal water is treated with chlorine. That chlorine provides residual disinfection as water sits in the distribution system. But chlorine degrades. At normal temperatures, chlorine residual drops by about 50% every 18 to 24 hours. Without continuous treatment, without power to run the chlorination systems, that residual is gone in 48 hours. Coliform bacteria, the kind that causes dysentery, cholera, typhoid, starts growing immediately. E. coli, Giardia, Giardia, Cryptosporidium. Every pathogen that modern water treatment eliminated comes roaring back. You have a family of 4. Average water consumption is 80 to 100 gallons per person per day in modern America. Toilet flushing alone accounts for 30% of that. Showers, laundry, dishes, drinking, cooking. You never thought about it because you never had to. Turn the tap, water comes out. Flush the toilet, waste disappears. Except now the tap is dry, and the toilet is full, and you have 4 people generating waste every single day. And you have zero plan for how to deal with it. Let me paint you the scenario most people will face. Suburban home, 4 people, 2 adults, 2 children. Grid goes down on a Monday night. By Thursday morning, the water pressure is gone. By Friday, the toilets will not flush anymore. By Saturday, you are digging a latrine in the backyard, trying to remember if you are supposed to bury it 18 inches deep or 24, wondering if you are far enough from the property line that your neighbor will not complain. Then realizing your neighbor is doing the exact same thing 10 feet away. By Sunday, the smell is unbearable. By the following Wednesday, someone in your house has diarrhea. You do not know if it is from contaminated water or stress or spoiled food or all 3. You do not have antibiotics. You do not have oral rehydration salts. You do not have clean water to make them even if you did. That is the reality of the 72-hour water apocalypse. Not dramatic. Not cinematic, just biology and chemistry and infrastructure. Failure grinding together into a crisis that kills more people than violence ever will. But here is where it gets worse. Water scarcity does not just threaten your body, it threatens your mind. Dehydration affects cognitive function within 24 hours. Decision-making deteriorates. Reaction time slows. Emotional regulation fails. You become irritable, paranoid, impulsive. You make mistakes you would never make under normal circumstances. You trust the wrong people. You take unnecessary risks. You burn bridges with neighbors who might have helped you, all because your brain is running on a water deficit. And while you are spiraling into dehydration psychosis, you still have to navigate, because maybe you decide to leave. Bug out. Head to that cabin your friend mentioned once, or to your parents' house 3 counties over, or just anywhere that is not here. Except you have a problem. You do not actually know how to get there. Not without GPS, not without turn-by-turn directions telling you every single move. You know the general direction. Maybe. You think it is west or northwest. You remember the highway number. Probably. Was it 76 or 74? You are 12 miles from home. You drive this route to work every single day, except you do not actually drive it. You follow the blue line on your phone. You make the turns when the voice tells you to turn. You have never once looked at a map. You have never once memorized the route. You could not draw it if someone handed you paper and a pencil. This is digital amnesia, the outsourcing of spatial memory to devices. And it has made an entire generation helpless. Studies show that 68% of American adults cannot navigate more than 3 miles from home without GPS assistance. 3 miles. That is the distance your great-grandparents walked to school. In the snow. Uphill both ways, however the joke goes. Except it is not a joke anymore. Because when the grid dies, your phone dies. And when your phone dies, you are navigationally illiterate in your own city. You cannot read a paper map while you are driving. You cannot pull over and study street signs because you never learned how to orient yourself using landmarks. You have no compass. You have no sense of direction beyond what your phone told you. So you guess? You take what you think is the right exit. You drive west. Or what feels like west. And 2 hours later, you are 40 miles in the wrong direction, your fuel tank is at empty, and you realize you are lost in your own country. This is not hypothetical. During Hurricane Katrina, emergency responders found evacuees stranded 20 miles from their stated destinations because they missed turns they had never navigated manually. During the 2003 Northeast blackout, people could not find their way home from work in cities they had lived in for decades. GPS dependency is not convenience. It is navigational lobotomy. And when the satellites go silent, or your phone dies, or the cell towers lose power, that lobotomy becomes permanent. You are functionally blind. You know where you want to go. You just have no idea how to get there. Which brings us to the next unspoken rule. And this one is pure chemistry. Let's talk about fuel. You have a generator in your garage. You have 50 gallons of gasoline stored in jerry cans. You have a bug-out vehicle with a full tank. You think you are prepared. You are not. Because gasoline is not a stable substance. It does not sit in a can forever, waiting patiently for you to need it. It degrades. It rots. And when it rots, it becomes useless. The chemistry is straightforward. Gasoline is a mixture of hydrocarbons, long chains of carbon and hydrogen that combust when exposed to heat and oxygen. But those chains are not stable. They oxidize. They react with air. They break down into shorter, lighter molecules that evaporate, and heavier, stickier molecules that polymerize into gums and varnishes. This process is called fuel degradation, and it starts the moment gasoline leaves the refinery. In a perfect world, gasoline stored in a sealed container in a cool, dark environment might last 12 months, maybe 18 if you are lucky. But we do not live in a perfect world. Most people store fuel in their garage, in plastic jerry cans, in fluctuating temperatures, exposed to air every time they crack the lid to check the level. Under those conditions, gasoline degrades in 6 to 8 months. And modern gasoline degrades even faster, because modern gasoline is not pure gasoline. It is blended with ethanol. 10% ethanol in most states, 15% in some. Ethanol is hygroscopic. That means it absorbs water. Water from the air. Water vapor that seeps through plastic containers. Water condensation that forms inside metal cans when temperatures fluctuate. And when ethanol absorbs water, something called phase separation occurs. The ethanol and water mixture becomes denser than the gasoline. It sinks to the bottom of the container. You now have two layers. A top layer of gasoline with reduced octane and poor combustion properties, and a bottom layer of ethanol and water that will not burn at all. If you pour that fuel into your generator, your vehicle, your chainsaw, you are pouring garbage into the engine. The water-ethanol layer clogs fuel lines. It corrodes carburetors. It gunks up injectors. And the gasoline layer, now stripped of its octane-boosting ethanol, knocks and pings and fails to ignite properly. Your generator sputters and dies. Your vehicle refuses to start. Your chainsaw seizes mid-cut. And you are standing there, staring at 50 gallons of useless brown sludge, realizing you just wasted hundreds of dollars and your only backup power source. This is not a prepper fantasy. This is chemistry. And it happens faster than you think. 3 months of neglect in a hot garage. 6 months in a plastic jerry can. 8 months without stabilizer. That is all it takes. Let me paint you a more specific picture. You are a prepper. You did your research. You bought 5 10-gallon jerry cans. You filled them at the gas station. You stacked them in your garage next to your generator. You felt prepared. 8 months pass. The grid goes down. You haul the generator outside. You grab the first jerry can. You pour the fuel into the tank. You pull the starter cord. The engine coughs, sputters, refuses to catch. You pull again. Nothing. You check the fuel. It smells wrong. Sour. Chemical. You pour a little onto the driveway. It is darker than you remember. Slightly orange. Thick. You dip your finger in it and rub it between your thumb and forefinger. It feels tacky. Sticky. This is not gasoline anymore. This is varnish. And that varnish is now coating the inside of your carburetor, clogging the tiny jets that regulate fuel flow, sealing your engine shut. You just killed your generator, not through use, through neglect, through ignorance of basic organic chemistry. Here is the rule: gasoline rots, period. If you are storing fuel, you need stabilizer. Fuel stabilizer is a chemical additive that inhibits oxidation and slows degradation. A bottle costs $8. It extends fuel life from 8 months to 24 months, maybe 36 if you are storing in ideal conditions. You add it when you fill the container. 1 ounce per 2.5 gallons. You seal the container immediately. You store it in a cool, dark, stable environment. Concrete basement. Underground cache. Not a metal shed that hits 120 degrees in summer. Not a plastic can sitting in direct sunlight. And even with stabilizer, you rotate your fuel. You do not let it sit for years. You use it. You refill it. You treat your fuel cache like a living system that requires maintenance, because it is. Now let us talk about the timeline. The scavenging curve. Most people think that when the grid goes down, everyone will stampede the stores immediately. Loot everything on day 1. Strip the shelves bare in the first 72 hours. They are partially correct. The grocery stores will be empty by day 3. The pharmacies will be picked clean by day 4. Gas stations will run hollow by day 2. But here's what nobody tells you. The masses are predictable. They think in terms of food, water, medicine, fuel, immediate consumables, survival essentials. They do not think in terms of tools, raw materials, industrial components, which means there is a window. A narrow window where the prepared can acquire resources that the panicked masses overlook entirely. Let me run the numbers. Day 1. The grid dies. Most people are in denial. They think it is a temporary outage, a rolling blackout, a storm that knocked out a substation. They wait. They conserve their phone batteries. They tell themselves it will be back on in a few hours. Day 2. Reality sets in. The power is not coming back. The grocery stores are being stormed. The lines at gas stations stretch for miles. People are fighting over bottled water. This is when the herd moves. This is when the predictable stampede happens. Day 3 through 7. The obvious targets are stripped. Grocery stores are empty. Pharmacies are ransacked. Gas stations are hollow. The herd is now panicking. They are moving into residential areas, breaking into homes, looking for food, water, medicine. This is the dangerous phase. This is when you stay invisible. Day 8 through 14. The desperation phase. People are running out of the supplies they grabbed during the initial panic. They are getting hungry, thirsty, sick. They are moving erratically, looting randomly. This is when violence spikes. This is when you avoid population centers entirely. But here's the window. Day 15 through day 30. The herd has thinned. The weak have collapsed. The violent have moved on to softer targets. The survivors are hunkering down, rationing what they have. And the industrial zones, the commercial districts, the hardware stores, the automotive shops, the electrical supply warehouses are sitting untouched. Why? Because the masses do not think like scavengers. They think like consumers. They grabbed food. They grabbed water. They grabbed batteries and flashlights and canned soup. They did not grab copper wiring. They did not grab ball bearings. They did not grab hand tools and welding rods and PVC pipe and rolls of insulation. They do not see value in raw materials. They see value in finished products, in things they can use immediately. This is your advantage. Between day 15 and day 30, you move. You are not looting grocery stores. You are not fighting over the last case of bottled water. You are walking into the industrial supply warehouse that nobody touched. You are filling a cart with copper wire, steel cable, batteries, solar panels, hand tools, fasteners, lubricants, sealants, and materials that will matter for years. You are thinking in terms of long-term utility. You are thinking like a builder, not a consumer. You are acquiring the means of production, not just the products. Let me give you a specific example. There is a former mechanic. We will call him David. David lives in a mid-sized city. When the grid dies, he does not rush to the grocery store. He stays home. He watches. He waits. Day 18, he leaves. He drives to the industrial park on the edge of town. He parks 2 blocks away. He walks in on foot. The first building is an electrical supply warehouse. The front door is locked. The windows are intact. Nobody has been here. He breaks a side window, climbs in. The warehouse is untouched. Rows and rows of wire, conduit, breakers, transformers, connectors. He fills a duffel bag with copper wire. Solid core. 12 gauge, 14 gauge. He grabs terminal blocks, heat shrink tubing, electrical tape. He moves to the next building, automotive parts supplier. Untouched. He grabs oil, filters, belts, bearings, hand tools, socket sets, wrenches, screwdrivers. He fills a second duffel bag. Third building, plumbing supply, untouched. PVC pipe, fittings, valves, sealant tape, glue. He takes what he can carry. He walks back to his vehicle, loads it, drives home. Total time exposed, 90 minutes. Total value acquired, incalculable. David just secured materials that will let him repair, build, and trade for years. While everyone else was fighting over the last can of beans, he was thinking 3 steps ahead. This is the scavenger's curve. The optimal acquisition window exists because human behavior is predictable. The herd panics early. They grab the obvious. They exhaust themselves. They thin out. And then, for a brief period, the overlooked resources sit waiting. But the window closes. By day 45, other scavengers figure it out. By day 60, the industrial zones are picked over. The window is narrow, and it requires you to do something the herd cannot do. Wait, think, move strategically. The herd cannot wait. They are starving by day 10. You can wait because you prepared. You have food, you have water, you have security. You are not desperate. You are patient. And patience is the ultimate tactical advantage. Now let us talk about what happens when the medicine runs out, when the pharmacies are empty, when the pills are gone. This is the unspoken rule that separates modern civilization from the 19th century. We live in a pharmaceutical society. We have outsourced our survival to chemistry. Antibiotics, insulin, blood pressure medication, anticoagulants, immunosuppressants, antipsychotics, antidepressants, thyroid hormones, inhalers. 8.4 million Americans require daily medication just to stay alive, not to feel better, not to manage discomfort, to stay alive. Insulin-dependent diabetics, organ transplant recipients on anti-rejection medication, heart patients on blood thinners, asthma patients who cannot breathe without albuterol. When the grid dies, the pharmaceutical supply chain dies with it. Pharmacies have a 3-day supply on hand. Maybe 5 days if you are lucky. Hospitals have a 2-week supply. After that, the medications are gone. And they are not coming back. Manufacturing plants require electricity, refrigeration, clean water, quality control labs, distribution networks. All of that collapses when the grid dies, which means that within 30 days, millions of people will run out of the medication keeping them alive. Let me walk you through what that looks like. You are a parent. Your teenage daughter is type 1 diabetic. She requires insulin. 4 injections per day. You have a 30-day supply in your refrigerator. The grid dies. Your refrigerator stops working. Insulin degrades rapidly at room temperature. It loses potency within hours in heat, within days at ambient temperature. You try to keep it cool. You wrap it in towels. You bury it in the yard in a makeshift cooler. But your house is 90 degrees. The insulin is degrading. By day 7, her blood sugar is spiking. By day 14, she is showing symptoms of ketoacidosis, nausea, vomiting, rapid breathing, confusion. By day 20, she is in a coma. By day 23, she is gone. This is not fiction. This is endocrinology. This is what happens when a type 1 diabetic loses access to insulin. And there are 1.6 million type 1 diabetics in the United States. All of them will face this same timeline. All of them will be making the same impossible calculations. Ration the insulin and extend her life by a week. Use it all now and give her 2 good weeks before the decline. There is no right answer. There is only triage. And it is not just insulin. Dialysis patients will die within 2 weeks without treatment. Organ transplant recipients will reject their organs within days without immunosuppressants. Asthmatics will suffocate during their next attack without inhalers. Heart patients will stroke out without blood thinners. This is the medical collapse. The return to 19th century mortality rates. Before antibiotics, a simple infection could turn septic and become lethal within days. A cut on your hand, a tooth abscess, a urinary tract infection. Any of those could become a sentence. Surgical mortality rates were 43% before antibiotics. 43%. Appendicitis was 15% fatal. Childbirth was a roll of the dice. Pneumonia was called the old man's friend because it was one of the most common causes of death in the elderly. All of that comes back instantly, the moment the antibiotics run out. You cut yourself working in the garden. The wound gets infected. You have no antibiotics. The infection spreads. You develop sepsis. You die. Your neighbor has a toothache. The tooth abscesses. The infection spreads to the jaw. Then the bloodstream. Sepsis. Gone. These are not dramatic scenarios. These are medical realities that were common 100 years ago. We have forgotten what it means to live without pharmaceutical intervention. We have forgotten that our bodies are fragile. That infection is lethal. That injury is often permanent. That pain is not always manageable. The grid dies, and we remember. We remember that our ancestors lived in a world where every winter was a death lottery, where every epidemic was a population reset, where childbirth was dangerous and old age was 45. We remember that comfort is not the baseline, that survival is not guaranteed, that the body fails, and modern medicine was the only thing holding it together. And now that safety net is gone. Which brings us to the next unspoken rule. The one that nobody wants to discuss because it forces us to confront something deeply uncomfortable about human nature. The thing we pretend doesn't exist when the grocery stores are full and the power is on. Dunbar's number. You've probably never heard of it. Robin Dunbar, British anthropologist, spent decades studying primate social structures and human tribal dynamics. He discovered something fundamental about how our brains are wired. We can only maintain stable social relationships with about 150 people. That's it. 150. Not 1,000. Not 500. 150. Your brain literally cannot track more than that. Cannot maintain the reciprocal relationships, the social bonds, the trust networks necessary for cooperation beyond that threshold. Every person beyond 150 becomes an abstraction. A statistic. Not a real human being you care about protecting. This matters when the grid dies. Because your neighborhood has 200 families. Your apartment complex has 300 units. Your small town has 4,000 residents. And when the grocery store is empty and the water stops flowing, all of those people are going to try to organize. They are going to attempt mutual defense, resource sharing, community survival, and it will fracture. Not because people are selfish, not because they lack good intentions, but because human neurology cannot sustain cooperative relationships beyond Dunbar's number when resources become scarce, when survival becomes zero-sum, when every calorie you give to someone else is a calorie your child doesn't get. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. Your suburban neighborhood holds an emergency meeting 3 days after the blackout. 40 families attend. Everyone agrees to pool resources, share food, protect each other. It feels good. It feels like civilization holding together, like community triumphing over chaos. Week 1 goes fine. Everyone contributes what they can. The retired veteran organizes security patrols. The nurse treats minor injuries. The engineer works on water filtration. It feels like cooperation, like we're all in this together. Week 2, tensions emerge. 3 families haven't contributed anything to the community pantry. They claim they have nothing to spare, but someone saw them eating well last night. Suspicion spreads. Are they hoarding? Are they taking from the community while hiding their own supplies? Week 3, it fractures. A vote is called to search the suspected hoarders' homes. 22 families vote yes. 18 vote no. The community splits. The 18 who voted no feel betrayed by the invasion of privacy. The 22 who voted yes feel betrayed by the hoarders. 2 separate groups form. Both claim to represent the original community values. Week 4, a third faction emerges. 8 families who are tired of the politics, tired of the drama. They want to take care of their own and stop worrying about everyone else. They withdraw, build their own perimeter, stop contributing to the communal resources. Week 6, the original 40 families have splintered into 3 hostile camps. They are not sharing resources. They are competing for them. Patrols from different groups eye each other with suspicion. Someone shoots at a shadow one night. Was it an intruder or a member of the other faction? Week 8, 2 families are expelled from the largest faction for stealing from the communal pantry. They are forced out of the neighborhood entirely. Driven away at gunpoint. Their children are crying. It doesn't matter. They violated the trust. They took more than their share. In abundance, we forgive. In scarcity, we exile. This is not fiction. This is anthropology. This is what happens every single time a large group faces sustained resource scarcity. Yugoslavia in the 1990s. Neighbors who had lived side by side for decades turned on each other along ethnic and religious lines the moment the state collapsed. Rwanda in 1994. Tutsis and Hutus who had intermarried for generations slaughtered each other when political stability vanished. Somalia in the early 1990s. Clan structures that had coexisted for centuries became militarized factions fighting over food aid and water access. Dunbar's number is not a suggestion. It is a cognitive limitation. Your brain evolved to handle small tribal groups, bands of 50 to 150 individuals where you knew everyone, where reciprocity was tracked through personal relationship, where trust was built through daily interaction. Modern society functions because we have institutions that scale beyond Dunbar's number. Legal systems, police, contracts, currency. These artificial structures allow millions of strangers to cooperate without personal relationships. But when the grid dies, those institutions vanish. The police stop showing up, the courts close. Contracts become worthless paper. Currency becomes meaningless. And we revert. Back to tribal psychology. Back to in-group and out-group dynamics. Back to the cognitive architecture our ancestors used for 200,000 years. You protect your tribe. Everyone outside your tribe is a competitor, a potential threat, a drain on your resources, which means the most dangerous people in a collapse are not the raiders from outside your area. They are predictable. You can defend against external threats. The most dangerous people are the ones inside your community who you thought you could trust. The neighbors who seem cooperative until resources get tight enough. Then the calculations change. Their children are hungry. Your family has food. and the social contract that held everything together dissolves. Here's the dark truth. The communities that survive are not the largest ones. They are not the ones with the most resources or the best location. They are the ones that stay below Dunbar's number, the ones that keep their groups small enough for genuine reciprocal relationships to function, small enough that everyone knows everyone, small enough that betrayal has immediate social consequences, small enough that trust can be maintained without institutional enforcement. 30 to 50 people is the sweet spot. Large enough for division of labor, for defense, for genetic diversity if you're thinking multi-generational. Small enough that every person knows every other person. Small enough that social bonds remain strong under stress. Which brings us to the second unspoken rule about group dynamics. Light discipline. You are sitting in your living room on day 5 of the blackout. It is night, true night, the kind of darkness that has not existed in developed areas for 100 years. No streetlights, no car headlights, no porch lights, no glow from the city on the horizon, just black. You light a candle, just one, for comfort, to see your family's faces, to push back the oppressive weight of absolute darkness. That candle just killed you. Here's why. The inverse square law of light propagation. The intensity of light decreases with the square of the distance from the source. Which sounds complicated but is stupid simple. If you double the distance from a light source, the brightness decreases by a factor of 4. Triple the distance, brightness drops by a factor of 9. In a world with ambient light pollution, this doesn't matter. Your candle is invisible against the background glow of a city. But in a world with zero light pollution, with true darkness, that candle is visible from miles away. Actual miles. Let me run the numbers. A standard candle produces about 12.5 lumens. In perfect darkness, with clear atmospheric conditions, that candle is visible to the human eye from approximately 3 kilometers. That is nearly 2 miles. A single candle in your living room window can be seen by anyone with working eyes from 2 miles away in every direction. That is a circle of visibility covering over 12 square miles. Every person within that 12 square mile radius now knows exactly where you are. They know you have shelter. They know you have resources. Because people without resources don't waste them on lighting candles for comfort. They sit in the darkness and conserve everything. You just broadcast your position to every desperate group within walking distance. You might as well have hung a neon sign that says, "We have supplies, come take them." This is not theoretical. This is physics. The inverse square law is not negotiable. Light propagates. In darkness, it propagates far, and human eyes are extraordinarily sensitive to light sources in complete darkness. We evolved as diurnal hunters. Our visual system is optimized to detect even small amounts of light. A candle flame triggers our attention from extreme distances because our ancestors needed to spot fire from far away, either to benefit from it or to avoid the predators it attracted. So what happens next? Someone sees your light. They are cold, hungry, desperate. They gather their group. 3 people. 5 people. Doesn't matter. They walk toward the light. It takes them an hour, maybe 2. They arrive at your home in the middle of the night. They knock on the door, or they don't knock, they just kick it in. You are outnumbered. You are surprised. They are motivated by starvation. You lose everything. Or maybe it doesn't happen that night. Maybe they watch. They see your candle burning in the same window every night. They count how many people live in your house. They watch your routines. They plan. And 3 nights later, when you are asleep, they come in coordinated, quiet, efficient. You never had a chance because you gave them 72 hours to prepare while you sat in your lit living room thinking the darkness was the enemy. Light discipline is the rule that separates survivors from statistics in a permanent blackout. You do not use open flames. You do not use flashlights unless absolutely necessary, and when you must use light, you control it. Blackout curtains, not regular curtains. Blackout material that allows zero light leakage. Multiple layers. Check from outside after dark to confirm no glow is visible. If you need light inside, you use it in interior rooms with no windows, bathrooms, closets, hallways with no external walls. You build a light discipline protocol where every member of your group understands that visible light is an operational security failure that could get everyone eliminated. This is not paranoia. This is physics meeting psychology. The physics of light propagation. The psychology of desperate humans searching for resources in darkness. Those two forces combine into a lethal equation. Your comfort candle becomes a beacon. Your flashlight becomes a target marker. The groups that survive are the ones that embrace the darkness, that learn to move in it, that use night vision or simply adapt to operating in near-zero light conditions. Human eyes can adapt to extremely low light if given time. 30 to 40 minutes of complete darkness allows your rod cells to reach maximum sensitivity. You will not see color, but you will see shapes, movement, enough to navigate, enough to function. This is how humans lived for thousands of years before artificial lighting. We moved at night when necessary, carefully, slowly, using moonlight and starlight. A half moon provides enough illumination to walk safely once your eyes adapt. A full moon is bright enough to read by if you are patient. But we have forgotten this. We have lived our entire lives in light pollution. We think darkness is the enemy. We think we need light to function. And that assumption will destroy unprepared groups within the first 2 weeks of a permanent blackout. Because they will light their homes, they will signal their positions. And the groups that maintained light discipline will watch them, will catalog them, will wait for the right moment, and will take everything. Your choice.